The MMA world can't get enough of the upcoming high-stakes battle between featherweight champion Alexander Volkanovski and lightweight champion Islam Makhachev. Both gentlemen are set to meet at UFC 284, with the Australian fighting on his home turf in Perth. Former middleweight champion Israel Adesanya has also weighed in on the discussion as he sides with his teammate to win the fight. Keep watching this video as we tell you more about the high-voltage fight. First up, he's built differently. Honestly speaking, we haven't felt this excited about a UFC matchup in a really long time. Thank you, Uncle Dana, for giving us a champ versus champ fight. And what better way to do it than matching the mighty Alexander Volkanovski against the dominant Islam Makhachev. Both these fighters have proven why they deserve to be on top and ahead of their fight at UFC 284. Fans, fighters, and analysts can't stop talking about what could go down. And while the Daggy boys certainly have the proper backing to go through with the fight, Volka's teammate Israel Adesanya thinks they're in for a surprise. While making an appearance on the Andrew Schultz Flagrant podcast, Izzy weighed in on the champ versus champ battle and sided with the Australian to usurp Islam Makhachev. In fact, he's so confident in Volka that he's ready to bet his house on him, claiming he'll run right through the Dagestani champion. Volk is the kind of guy, even when he cuts weight, the amount he cuts, for him to have the cardio he has in the later rounds, it's mind-blowing. The man's different. We're not gonna lie, guys, Volkanovski is built differently. He just doesn't go down. You could beat the living daylights out of him and he'll find his way back up and be ready for the next round. And we did say Islam will be tested against Charles Oliveira, but if you ask us, we think this is going to be the true test of his skills. Next, a former rugby player. Izzy thinks the great has one clear advantage over Islam Makhachev, and that's his previous line of work. The Aussie was actually a rugby player before taking up MMA as a full-time career, and since he's used to such a physical sport, he has a different build. Adesanya talked about how he's used to carrying a lot of body mass, and since he's done that for so long, his muscle density is different. We don't want to get all sciencey right now, but what he's basically trying to say is Alexander is more resistant to damage. He isn't the kind of guy to tap out as quickly as Charles or go down with a single strike. He can take his fair share of beating and do a lot of damage in that process. Izzy even talked about how he has trouble holding him down, and that's really shocking considering the difference in their build, frame, and weight. Volka's only 5'6", while the last stylebender is a towering 6'4", and the fact that he still can't hold himself down speaks volumes about his strength. Now, Izzy isn't exactly the best wrestler out there, but when it comes to overall fight IQ, the former middleweight champ thinks the great is really crafty. He has a lot of weapons up his sleeves, and we know we said that about Charles too, but this is different, guys. We can't even tell you how big this fight is going to be, since both of them bring so much explosiveness to the table. Moving on, respect for Makhachev. Israel didn't count out Islam though, and let's face it, you'd be a fool to do that. Despite all the doubts, he's risen to the top of the division after choking out the scary Charles Oliveira. That obviously means something, right? There was so much talk about how he hasn't really fought at the top of the division yet. But what do you know? He comes out and dominates Charles to win the lightweight title, without even breaking a sweat. And Izzy respects that. He thinks Islam is a great fighter, and he also acknowledges his team. He thinks the Daggy boys are doing a really good job, but even they know who they're going against. About a week or two back, Makhachev's coach Khabib Nurmagomedov was at a public event, and someone asked him what he thought about his fighter's upcoming battle. Now, it's pretty obvious he picked Islam as the victor, but you could tell there was a lot going on in his mind at that time. And that's because Volkanovski isn't exactly your ordinary fighter. No sir, he's different. Khabib said the Aussie's going to be a really big challenge, even bigger than Oliveira, and that's mainly because of one major reason. When it comes to heart, Volka is probably the best out there. Like we said before, he just doesn't go down. He's impossible to beat, and if Islam wants to hold on to the belt, he'll have to come up with a solid strategy to break him down. Otherwise, we think Izzy's onto something here. Alex has this in the bag. Following up, a bit too early. American Kickboxing Academy coach Javier Mendez thinks Islam is without a doubt the best fighter out there, but he isn't exactly on board with how he's managed to climb the official UFC pound-for-pound rankings after just one fight. Prior to UFC 280, Islam was nowhere to be seen, and we're not trying to take anything away from him, because frankly speaking, we can't. He announced himself and won back-to-back fights to get a shot at gold against the former Brazilian lightweight champion, but after just one win, he's managed to climb the rankings, taking the second spot on the official official pound-for-pound rankings. And you probably remember how we've talked about this in our past videos. He's a champion, no doubt about it. But number 2 in just one night? Isn't that a bit too much? This might be a little harsh, and we're requesting the Dagestani boys to listen to this with an open mind. But Oliveira is the first real opponent he's fought. Before that, it wasn't exactly like he's fighting the top guys in the division, you know. And in case you don't agree with us, let's talk about his last opponent. Charles wasn't just handed the belt or his position in the pound for pound, he had to earn it. He fought the top guys in the division, and Islam still has to do that. So yeah, we're going to side with Javier here, since we think he still needs to be tested before his ranking is justified. Up next, at least 2 fights to go. We'd like to remind you again, Mendes isn't denying the fact that Islam isn't the best fighter out there. He just thinks it all happened too early. And if he truly wishes to be recognized as a real champion, he'll need to win at least 2 fights. The one against Volkanovski, and then Beneil Dariush. His top priority should be the Aussie at this point. But even if he manages to register a W at 284, he has another dominant fighter waiting for him. Beneil is crazy. He's on a deadly win streak and just waiting to get his hands on whoever's holding the belt. And we still think Volka is the tougher fight out of the 2. But it doesn't mean Islam will have it easy from now on, since he'll be fighting the top contenders. Javier also touched upon how the Aussie has literally mopped the entire division, neutralizing every threat before moving up a weight class to become a double champion. Islam, on the other hand, doesn't have a single title defense, and already sits at the number 2 spot on the rankings. And Mendes doesn't have anything against the lightweight champion, but that's just how things work. Riding on an impressive win streak is one thing, but when it's against the best guys in the division, then it means something else. Last but not least, Conor weighs in. Now, a lot of you might not like this, but the notorious Conor McGregor knows what this is all about. He's a former double champion himself, so when he shares his 2 cents, it's important everyone listens. There's been a lot of talk about how Volka is too small to make much of an impact and defeat Islam, and while that's definitely going to be a big challenge for the Aussie, Conor has suggested that he go back to his rugby days. The heavier Alexander is, the more advantage he'll have in the fight. McGregor said it'll help him since he'll be like a bowling ball that can just run through Makhachev and present him with a lot of trouble on the mats. It's a good strategy, but honestly, we think the Aussie isn't worried about his size or anything like that. He's more concerned about putting an end to the hype train and entering the Hall of Fame by becoming a double champion. Let's see how things go. We can't wait for this one. That's it from our side, folks. So what do you think? Can Volkanovski cement himself as a double champion? And does Islam have enough to fight the top guys? Let us know in the comments below. Remember, don't forget to hit the like button and subscribe to our channel for more exciting videos in the future. Thanks for watching, guys, and we'll see you next time.